An exciting guest for you guys today. I think it's always exciting to meet entrepreneurs that take a career pivot and do so because they are passionate about finding an unaddressed segment in the marketplace and they want to make a change. So, Angela Fairhurst is the founder and CEO of Geri-Gadgets, based in Los Angeles. Angela is a seasoned media professional turned mission-driven entrepreneur who completely reinvented her career to revolutionize the world of non-pharmacological elder and dementia care. Before entering the healthcare and product development space, Angela Fairhurst built a highly successful multi-decade career in Hollywood and in journalism. She was a veteran television producer, traveling journalist, and entertainment exec. Her entertainment background includes serving as EVP of Unscripted production at the global powerhouse Fremantle, where she oversaw major primetime hits like America's Got Talent and American Idol. She also spent 2 decades running her own independent production company. Angela's life took a profound detour when she became the primary caregiver for her mother, who was battling Lewy body dementia. During this journey, Angela grew deeply frustrated by a glaring lack of dignity in available senior care activities. She observed that while there were endless sensory and tactile fidget toys designed for children, the market offered virtually nothing humane, age-appropriate, or respectful for aging adults experiencing cognitive decline. Driven by necessity and love, Angela stepped completely out of her comfort zone to fill this gap. She used her product development and storytelling acumen to invent the patent-pending Geri-Gadgets, a line of screen-free, non-toxic, and fully washable, safe-touch, medical-grade silicone sensory kits, designed deliberately without right or wrong outcomes to ensure failure-free engagement. Her buckets, such as the flower bucket and the fidget gadget, provide something tactile, stimulating, and naturally reduces anxiety, focus drift, and the sundowning behavior. Today, Geri-Gadgets are utilized globally across the US, Canada, UK, Australia, in memory care facilities, special education classrooms, and occupational rehabilitation programs. Angela is widely recognized as a vocal thought leader in the emerging neuro art space, advocating for a shift towards empathetic, creative, and human-centric care. Angela, thank you so much for coming on and telling us a little bit about this amazing business that you've built, and especially for it being, so close to something that so many of us will deal with as we continue to get older and older. So,
I need to make a correction. The Fremantle credits are my CFO's credits.
Goodness. Okay. Sorry about that.
I have a career in music, variety, television, award shows, game shows, talk shows.
Amazing.
But I have not worked for Fremantle. That was my CFO, COO. Anyway,
I love that.
So we are patented. We're not pending. So
let's go.
Is
awesome.
So anyway, but happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And
of course,
telling your audience about me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, your background. And, I think, we're dealing with the largest population entering into retirement age in the history of the world, the baby boomers. So you hear stories right now of kind of the millennial generation getting it from both ends. They've got kids moving back into the house because 25% of them are unemployed because of AI and, just a harder job market for young people to get into. And then at the same time, parents that are, needing to either move in or have additional help or dealing with, debilitating situations like dementia, like you had to deal with. So I just love to learn a little bit more about your story, kind of, where you grew up, what life was like as you kind of moved into this moment where you and your mom got this diagnosis and you became a caregiver.
Well, like you said in your really very complete intro, I was born and raised in California, native, second generation, went to UCLA, the whole 9 yards. I was an English major because you alluded to the journalism, which I did do. And got on an airplane, as luck would have it, sat next to the producers of the Grammy Awards, and they hired me right out of college as an intern, and then I got hired. So I lucked into the career in television, and it music variety, they produced the Grammys. So that was the beginning of my career in television. Things happen for somehow or another, our paths lead us wherever they go. And I've always been an advocate for, hey, take it where it's going to lead. If you're open to the possibilities, things will happen. So I had a very fun and diverse career in music variety and award shows, talk shows, game. I listed it all, docu-follow, stuff like that. But what happened is my mom, and you were talking about the sandwich generation. My mom was not at home, but my kids were, and my mom got sick. And my dad at the same time was dying of lung cancer. My dad survived only 10 weeks. But it was a crisis mode. Like everything happened that year. That being said, I noticed it. And my older brother, who's a doctor, research medicine, was dealing with my dad. And he was like, no, she's going to be all right. He was on the East Coast, and I'm here in the trenches, if you will, knowing that something is up. And he, at the time, didn't really want to deal with it. He was dealing with my dad's palliative care. And yet I was the one here seeing it happen. And so what did happen is that she packed 16 pairs of pants and one shirt to visit him. And then he realized that she was sick. And that was the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, when she actually had Lewy body. This creates another problem, because those who are familiar with the different dementias, Alzheimer's hallucinates just like Lewy body, but an Alzheimer patient can handle an antipsychotic and a Lewy body person cannot. To severe side effects, which my mom did. So we had 7 different hospitalizations with 7 different horrible side effects, and the worst one almost killed her. She had lived at home for half her journey with caregivers, and it became too dangerous. 24 hours of care turned into needing 36 in that same time frame. And so that's where, but when after the 7th hospitalization, her care level was high. Her baseline got higher. It lowers. It's a diminishing return. But as an executive in charge of production, I was determined to find the line from A to B, and it's never. So that's when we put her in a smaller facility, which was a godsend. And that's when I discovered a sensory need. She was touching shiny magazine paper, rolling it between her fingers. That precipitated me to go, I'm going to bring children's toys and see what I can find. And I couldn't find anything that was appropriate. It was either infantilizing, too complicated, toxic when put in the mouth, or just too complicated. Tech was not happening anymore. She couldn't, because she was developing cataracts, couldn't even do a Zoom or anything like that. Handle a phone, turn on music, nothing. She loved music, and I do believe that music really matters. But that's when I discovered food grade silicone in my own kitchen, and I cut down this pot holder to about the 5-inch size that is currently now, which is a sensory mat. I brought it.
Wow.
Yes. And so I don't recommend people do that, because
because that looks like that's like something you would put to keep from like burning your wood or whatever, your granite counter, right?
It needs to be bigger, but this was, but this was the size for the hand. So I cut it down to that, right? So it had a serrated edge, but I brought it to her, and she loved the sound and she loved the texture, because then I learned. And then when we threw it back and forth like a Frisbee, everything changed. That was the pivotal moment that said, oh my God, I am going to create a line of products to do this. Seriously, it was so, she fidget equals focus. Like she zoned in the first time in 4 years. I was so relieved that there was a way to reach her that calmed her down. And what I have learned subsequent to that is that fidget equals focus. And the very touch is so similar to human skin that it's calming automatically. So that's why the buckets are made out of food grade silicone, so that everything is dishwasher safe, everything's mouth safe. And these items were to help her in the fidget bucket, were to help her clenched hand. And everything has a story with it, because you do things out of desperation is the mother of invention. And I know it's like, it's true. And I was developing these for years until I was saving enough money, working in television, to try and get to market. It took about 4 years, but that's when I filed for a patent. And these shapes are based on Tetris because I love Tetris. But the whole idea was to have things that are failure free, so that there's no wrong way to do it. And these can be, there's a textured size, the texture matters, the smooth surface matters, because it's all about building and being creative, even when there's no outlet. My crayon turned into lipstick. So that's what the paint. But these are so much fun. And then the third and final bucket is also inspired by basically that my uncle, her older brother, was a florist.
Oh, that's fun.
It was beautiful. And tulips rise with the sun. So that was so symbolic for me, that they're colorful for the aging eye, but not disrespectful, not infantilizing, like I said before. And then these, just again, it's not as simple. It doesn't have to be. Creativity comes in all forms. And the whole point is that, these do, and the vase is reinforced, and they can kiss. And so the whole idea is flowers can kiss. There's no wire inside. So all of these products are safe, and dishwasher safe, and bath safe, and mouth safe, and everything like that. And give the loved one, an opportunity to engage safely without risk of falling or getting up or being aggravated, and calming down. So it gives the caregiver respite. It's great multi-generationally. I found out that there are so many uses to this that the neurodivergent population has taken them on too. But when I got to market, that's when I had to, about 2.5 years ago, leave television in order to focus on this full time to make a real go of it.
So I love it. I love it. So, I think, you had some great quotes there. Invention is the mother of, I think you replaced inspiration with desperation, right?
Yeah,
like this idea that, sometimes, you come across an issue or a problem out in the world, and you just can't believe that there's not a solve for it. And it irks you so badly that you're like, oh, well, first of all, I'm going to figure this out, kind of prototyping what you had to. And then that gave you the inspiration to like, wait a minute, this is not something that I'm alone in facing. There is an addressable market that needs this, the marketplace, and there are consumers that would be willing to pay. So I'd be curious, how long did it take you to go from, kind of this prototype idea that you kind of, cooked up in the kitchen, no pun intended, to actually start thinking like, okay, I'm going to go out and source manufacturing? And what are those first early processes like of like, going out and finding a partner who can actually manufacture these items on your behalf?
Yeah, it's interesting because it started, a friend of mine in London, she was like, Angela, you don't need to raise all the money for all the products yet. Just go ahead to 3D print ideas. And you cannot 3D print in silicone. You can only 3D print in some strange material. So I did have a friend that invested early on, very small investments. Otherwise, I am self-investment. But I was able to do that so that I could begin the process. And honestly, it took 10 years. It takes 10 years to become an overnight sensation. Really, from the idea to patent to prototyping. And what I learned from the mixed material is that it maintains a smell, and that it's not cleanable like this. I can actually write on this with a pen and take an eraser, and I'm going to show you like live that this works. Like, it is so cleanable. I don't recommend with a Sharpie because that's permanent, but this is like amazing how well this cleans. You learn, oh my God, no heat, no smell, no cold. This is the perfect material. I had no idea really how great it really would be received. But when I saw it working so well, not just with my mom, but with other people, I knew I was on the right path, and I had to keep going. It's that tenacity, like I was put on this planet to make a difference. And what it brought me was a mission and a purpose that I never thought I would have. It's so satisfying. The money will follow when you have the belief and the tenacity and you see it working. That is the path, really.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about your go-to-market. So you raised some money from an investor that, probably just believed in your passion and, what you were wanting to do as much as the investment opportunity. But what would you say was kind of the, the unlock, so to speak? How did you, once you had product, how do you go out and find that addressable market? Do you go for individuals, direct to consumer? Is it more of a B2B opportunity by targeting the places where, ultimately seniors who face these issues end up, like assisted memory care facilities? Be curious of kind of your initial go-to-market strategy, and how did you have to pivot or change things as you went along?
You kind of do. So first of all, the investor was only in the sample stage, and
Wow.
And the pandemic hit, and originally that also waylaid. Remember the big ship in the Suez Canal, and all these things postponed me being able to get any product here. And the silicone market also, because it's food grade, it's so high quality that it also went up in price. So we sat it out a little bit and waited for the right timing. I found the product manufacturer through a friend, a friend of a friend. You start as an executive in charge, you may not know the answers to everything, but you find out how to ask and get that advice. So it's about getting that. So once I had that, and I then worked like a dog during the pandemic. Once we started production, it was nonfiction television that was going like gangbusters. So I literally saved my money. And I met a woman through my first cousin who worked in insurance for a large care home community. Like they have 1,000 places. Who introduced me to the right person who ended up mentoring me. And because of that, giving me this is perfect, that belief in myself and that belief in the products, that's when, start with the samples, get them out. So B2B, number one, is way easier for me because it's just as hard to sell one as it is to sell 100. And I sold 100 at a time. The orders are not as that. I wish they were that big right now, but we'll get there from here. But I really am B2C only by having convenience of it. And my UK distributor is handling my Amazon account because they wanted a US presence. So I have Amazon US and UK, and this is new. So the B2B has really been the focus, going after care communities, skilled nursing, adult day, all of these things, and now special education as well. So I'm trying to broaden the horizon because everybody's like, have you thought about the kids, Angela? This multi-generationally thing works so well. Like it's great for visitation and it's great in a school and it calms and connects everybody. And, loneliness, it became a real factor too, because an older person, a kid with autism can be lonely people. And when you have something that brings in the connection in a profound way, actually, then then it's time. So I think that my passion, that I know it works, that I have real time work happening, that keeps me going. And it really is about networking. It's about being on podcasts such as yours that gets the word out so that people understand that this product exists, what to do, how to do it, how important engagement and connection is, how important washable, safe products are, because that gives that respite. We're talking about the sandwich caregiver. The kid can play with the grandparent. My kids did with my mom. They were teenagers. Now they're young adults, but they saw it happening. And that was really important. I think I'm going to just go on a little tangent here. It's not really.
Sure, of course.
When you realize that something as beautiful as this, dopamine's created when somebody is curious about it. But when you have the love and hug chemicals of touch, that's oxytocin and serotonin. And that 15-minute visit can last a couple days. It can change the trajectory of a person's mood for a couple days. So even when people say, well, I don't have the time, well, a short visit's better than no visit. Or, gosh, it's so painful to see my loved one in their demise. Well, you know what? It makes a huge difference. The caregivers need to know you're caring, the paid caregivers, number one. And number two, it does matter. They do remember inside. It's there somewhere. Maybe not the way that it used to be, but when you learn to observe and meet someone where they are on the day they're there and not go into the past and just stay present, you can find that connection. You can make those moments. And I was able to do that with Geri-Gadgets, and I'm trying to do that to show other people that it is possible. And as hard as caregiving is, there are beautiful, beautiful moments that can be had from it.
Yeah, that's really powerful. How much have you had to not only spend time on evangelizing kind of the product itself and more on kind of like almost changing behavior within the caregiver community? It was interesting timing. An older relative of mine shared a Facebook post the other day, and it was kind of like a Alzheimer's manifesto, is like, if I get Alzheimer's, please do these things. And it was like, don't talk to me like I'm a child, remember, it was like a lot of the things that you just listed through were kind of like stated in this manifesto of like how somebody with Alzheimer's would like to be treated. And this is them saying like, this is how I'd like you to treat me now when I'm healthy, when I can actually advocate for myself. And so we know that this is like, the things that you talked about, like visiting is better than not visiting at all. How much do you have to spend time kind of creating content and doing, making part of your marketing message just the overall, like, advocating to help caregivers, feel like focusing on them so they can be better caregivers almost in a way, or empowering them to not feel so guilty, not get so frustrated, not get so sad, all those things.
I know. And it's hard because caregiving is hard. But the message really is that a little goes a long way. And when you understand that short-term memory is only 30 seconds long, and that somebody with dementia is repeating themselves, but not on purpose, then you tend not to get frustrated with them as you would. You have patience with somebody with cancer because you understand it. You don't have patience with somebody with dementia because you don't understand it. So the difference is understanding and not understanding. So when you start to understand the aspects of different dementias and dementia in general, and all of these things, then it becomes easier to caregive. It becomes easier to be patient, to step back and breathe, and you have to take care of yourself. And all of these things, I have developed a train the trainer program. I thought originally that it was obvious. It's obvious to me. No, it wasn't obvious to me. It became obvious to me. So it's about spreading that message to everybody and teaching the smallest little things. Like I just said, little is big. Little engagement is huge. You could just be staring at something, but that's engagement. That's connection. That's amazing. And to celebrate the wins, because there's no reason. We don't need to be right. We just have to be there. I don't know. I had a friend that tell me my mom thinks every day is her birthday. I'm like, well, don't. I say of an acronym, don't dare, DARE, don't argue, react, or explain. We really, as caregivers, don't need to be right. We just need to be present. And we just need to be compassionate and understanding. And we know our healthcare system is 25 years behind. So there's a lot of teaching, sadly, that gets involved here. And also that, educating that these are food grade. They're really very high quality. They're not toys. They're kits, they're tools, they're sensory engagement kits, they're manipulatives for something. So a cheaper version might be out there a little bit, but you get what you pay for in terms of the quality. Like, I'm not worried that anybody puts this in their mouth or that you can sanitize it, because those are easy things with Geri-Gadgets. So that's the important thing too, but it's teaching all of that. And so it is about training the trainer, because once somebody else knows, then they'll tell the next caregiver and the next caregiver, whether they're paid or unpaid, these simple messages that I've just told you.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting.
Love that. Oh, by the way, the manifesto, that should be published. Like,
right?
Absolutely, because people need to hear that. Here's how I want to be treated, if and when. Because sadly, we don't get to choose the choice and manner of our exit.
Totally. You made some comparisons to, what was available on the market that were kind of like for kids, like it seems like there's also been an explosion in interest, kind of the original fidget spinner was kind of, the thing from maybe, I want to say, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago that I felt like kind of was like kind of the first explosion in kind of kids wanting, something to kind of do. I mean, I guess they've always kind of been around, but that was the first one that I felt was like this mass market explosion. And then right now, I'm kind of in the middle of it with my tweens that really are into these, these squishies and dumplings. And it seems like it's kind of having another moment in the culture. And a lot of that can be driven by social media. Have you thought about the idea of like looking at some of the ways that these other brands have become so viral and so explosive on social media through kids and kids creators or creators that market or create content for kids? And have you thought of that potentially being an interesting way to market your products?
Well, I'm trying to, especially in the neurodivergent space, but it's finding those right people that are willing and that understand that the Geri-Gadgets. And with the fidget stuff, I originally brought my mom all that stuff, but what there is goo inside. So one of those $9 toys, she'd pull off a tentacle or something like that, and the goo would come out, and she'd want to try it because
Ugh.
yeah, and so that was dangerous. So you
Yeah, and who knows where those things are made? Probably in a toxic warehouse somewhere in China, right?
exactly. And so the whole idea is just to be safe. I mean, the safety is such a big thing. And, there are going to be children that are not going to put something in their mouth or that know how to handle it. But, and that's why I love the kids' idea of teaching or making sure that their loved one is safe if they're older and don't really understand what that is. Oh, that's not a food item, but it can be put in the mouth and it's fine. There's going to be no bite marks with Geri-Gadgets. It's safe that way. So, but I would love to find those people in the special needs neurodivergent space that can teach other kids how to be calm and teach and spread the word. This all costs money. So I have been grassrootsing it because I don't have a big investor, if anybody wants to get there. But and I haven't really spent the time or effort to try and find those people right now because it's hard work to do that. And I'm focused on continuing the path I'm on, which has been really great in terms of, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK as distributors so far, and then finding those places here and, carrying on. And I know I'll get there from here.
I love it. What were some of the bigger challenges and things that you noticed or changes that you made to your marketing when you started going from B2B to B2C, like giving people the ability to buy through Amazon where they don't have to pay shipping and you can start to focus on the individual consumer who was kind of like you, that was in a situation and felt like they didn't have any, opportunity and, the center or the facilities that were taking care of your mom weren't providing them. So you kind of have to create that patient, empowerment and allow them to be, the advocate or the person who's introducing the concept to both their person that they're providing caregiving to, but probably the wider community in which they're, living in and being cared for. Did your marketing have to change or did your approach have to change when you started thinking about individuals and individual caregivers versus kind of facilities?
It definitely did shift from the original packaging had just my mother and her older brother on it. And everybody thought that my focus was so narrow, really so niche, only to memory care. And that really skilled nursing or neurodivergent didn't matter. And that they do, and it works for that population as well, because Geri-Gadgets run the gamut of being something very simple, as much as just touching, feeling, and holding, to creating the structure like Shapes does, or a piece of art. Like, whoa, the flowers are so simple. Okay, then do something different with them. Make them stick into one another. Do something different with the fidgets. There's so many opportunities for creativity with that. And so I had to pivot with that and put a multi-generational photo on there to change the languaging, really, to include words like regulation, because this isn't something that I normally would use for somebody with dementia, but it really does regulate somebody when you're in the neurodivergent space as well as dementia space. So I changed some of that languaging, and that is helpful because then people now start to see the broadened marketplace that, oh, wow, this is really huge. There's so many people that can utilize these kinds of tools. And yeah, so as I continue to do that, I think pivoting is so important. I also, I'm figuring out where I spend my time and energy. That's hard too, because I am a small team.
Yeah, it's interesting that I love that you keep referencing your old life as an EIC, executive in charge. Those who worked in freelance production will know that term well. But it is kind of like you are the conductor that keeps the train running on time, and you're, master of nothing, commander of everything, right? It's like you kind of are keeping everything moving in the right direction. What do you think that career as a producer for so long, do you think that sets you up well to transition into the entrepreneurial world? I know for me, having come from that same space, I think, that skill set is massively applicable.
Yeah, well, I definitely think it is, because as an exec in charge, you are a problem solver. And then as a producer, you're creative. So I took those left brain and right brain skills and brought it in to solve a problem that was different. I didn't know anything about manufacturing, distribution, fulfillment, even product liability insurance. I didn't know. It was by asking, but that skill set about being able to figure it out, or asking those that came before me and being not afraid to not know the answer. Say, oh, I don't know, but I'm going to find out, serves you. Like, I don't pretend to know something I don't know. And when you're a newcomer and you're an entrepreneur, you don't know where the blind spots are. So you look for them and you ask for that advice to help you get from A to B. And that's what I have done. And I remain humble and very grateful for the people in the space, because caregiving space is very different than television. It's very much more nurturing. You feel like fellow caregivers and fellow entrepreneurs in the caregiving space are very much a team. They're all trying to help one another, and it's less competitive than the entertainment space, where you don't recommend somebody because you might not get that job. You know what I mean? There are people that do that. I've never been that human, but
yeah,
it exists that way.
Yeah, there's a more of a scarcity mindset where people are kind of looking at each other. There's less productions every year. Things are being outsourced. Business is moving away. So everybody's really keeping their network tight, and, not always willing to share and lift each other up, because, there's this kind of zero-sum game that if somebody else wins, then I lose.
Yeah, it's the survival instinct there. But here, the partnerships really matter. If you tell somebody about Geri-Gadgets versus me telling somebody about Geri-Gadgets, it means a lot more, because now you've experienced, you understand the product, and vice versa. If I can do that, like, create those partnerships, that's the thing that helps one another. And I think that doing it alone is not, we always know that we're stronger in a group. So even though I'm alone in this, technically, as a small company, I'm not alone in the space. And that helping each other helps each other. Like, you give and you get. You give, you get. And I truly believe that. And, it doesn't always work out that way, but if you remain positive about it, and the tenacity and the sort of, I don't know, all of that, it just helps so that I don't get frustrated, because there's nothing worse than being an entrepreneur and feeling absolutely alone and frustrated. That's how come so many businesses give up. But when you're selling something, it's like 7 touches before somebody actually buys. So brand awareness is so important. Telling your story is really important. You're buying the fact that I had this personal experience. Why else would I create something? You don't pull things out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that all has a part and parcel to do with the space, and just being able to share and go, oh my God, I have a better answer right now. And there, I believe that there's room, because there's so many people that are afflicted with cognitive decline and neurodivergent space. It's just massive. Beside, disabled people, so it works in the rehab space, in the therapy space. I mean, even the touch, the silicone is so calming that it helps so many different people in so many different levels. So it's about teaching. It really is that.
We talked about the multi-generational bridge a little bit, or we at least talked about the phenomenon of, kind of touch and sensory toys are such a massive category right now with kids. I took my daughters down to Five Below the other morning on a Saturday, and we literally stood in line, at this, what I would consider a dollar store, a year or two ago, to get tickets and, get to the front of the line and spend our money to get these items. But one of the things that I just kind of, no pun intended, bridge the gap on is kind of the ripple effect of grandchildren being able to play with their grandparent who is going through and suffering from dementia. I think a lot of times, when that happens, when my grandparents were, when my grandma, my great grandma had dementia and was in a home and would get to come and spend weekends occasionally with my grandma at her home in Washington State. But by the time she passed, I hadn't had my kids yet, so I haven't had to deal that with my own kids. But I imagine kind of like, your kids have a certain vision and expectation of who their grandparents are because they've had these interactions with them their whole lives, that when they start to decline, it could be something that would be very scary, or they don't understand how to it's hard enough for adults. I can imagine the complications skyrocket, I would imagine, with kids. But the idea of play, of kind of doing, this activity that is very native to the way that they play with toys, really kind of helps bridge the gap between, kids and seniors and families kind of going through this together. I wondered if you kind of noticed that in the way that the products get used.
Absolutely. And I think young kids especially don't have any judgment towards them. They don't. They just love their grandparents, and they're not going to give them a hard time about doing anything. We lose that as we grow. Unfortunately, we become jaded and scared, and we're taught these things that put us in a position of backing away. But honestly, when you engage like that, it's so beautiful. And these kids are going to have these memorable moments with their grandparent, regardless of their cognitive ability, by being able to interact with them in such a beautiful way, and let their grandparent be their grandparent, and they're there too. I love those products that are less safe for the adult than they are for the kid. Give me inspiration to just create a safer, better version, which is what I've done with some of the fidgets. You're like, oh, everybody knows poppers, but the triangle shape is very unusual, and that was specific to exercising the hands. Everybody, yeah. So that's how it kind of goes. Like, I've seen those squishy eggs. Well, this one doesn't have goo inside, or this is the right touch and feel. So it's about making a better, safer environment for them. But those kids did definitely help their loved ones in immeasurable ways. I think they do so much good. Those are those positive chemicals that I was talking about too. They give that to their grandparents. That's what pets do too. And music works in the same fashion. And Geri-Gadgets work really well in conjunction with all of those things. If there's any fear factor with any of it, or any fidgeting factors, because it just makes somebody sit still and enjoy and not be stressed out. Works in doctor appointments too, things like that. Shower.
You also, mentioned the over medication alternative, or the idea of misdiagnosis. Like sometimes we're not as much as we like to think the medical industry always gets everything right all of the time, I think probably over the last 5 years with COVID and a lot of other things, I think we probably, more than in any time in my history, as an adult, can look at science and medicine and the healthcare industry as not infallible and kind of a ivory tower that doesn't make mistakes or get things wrong. And I think there's also definitely a reach for people to want to try and not rush to a medical intervention or not rush to a pharmaceutical intervention as like just the very first thing that I do anytime, I have a sniffle. The idea that there are root causes and that, you should try to attack things from the perspective of diet, weight loss, preventable things before you kind of reach for medical interventions. How do you think this fits in kind of that new modality in health care that people are trying to chase these, non-pharmaceutical interventions, at least as a first touch before they reach for that alternative?
Well, thank God, really. I mean, because the medicines are to help a symptom, not really a problem a lot. And when you do that, you help one symptom, you create another. It's that whack-a-mole thing. So if you can take something as comforting as the Geri-Gadgets, for example, and not give a sedative, it's safer. You can then communicate with that person once they're calm without drugs. You don't have to have them, what do you call it? Wrapped up, in a seatbelt, basically.
Yeah. Be restrained, essentially.
I couldn't think of that word. That's my, if you don't have them restrained, if somebody dies when they're restrained, can you imagine? That's the paper, like that's a lot of it, that's hard. So if you can just engage them in a very simple way, non-pharmacologically, with a calming stone or something like that, it's brilliant, right? It's just a better way, a cheaper alternative. Then you don't need somebody to sit there and manage that human. And we know that we don't have enough caregivers out there.
Yeah. And it's only going to get worse with the population.
So I think things like mine need to be available so that people don't have to have a caregiver burnout so much and things like that. It just makes life easier in a very simple way. It's simply innovative.
Yeah. Well, Angela, fascinating story. I appreciate you being so candid and interlinking your own experience with, the marketing and the founding of your company, because, I think those are the best companies and the best products, ones that are born out of personal, triumph and spirit over, identifying a need and trying to provide a better way and a better alternative for consumers. And when they're highly close to, life impacting moments that we all go through or will go through, and the founders are candid about their experiences, I think it makes it all a little bit easier for those who, find themselves in those circumstances. So thank you for being willing to share your story and also being so dogged and determined and, bringing something that was a better idea, to the marketplace. If folks want to continue to follow along, learn more, stay up to date on what you're doing, where would you like to send the audience to stay engaged?
Go to my website, Geri-Gadgets.com, with or without the dash in between. Remember, it's G's, not J. Geri gadgets.com. You can shop Geri-Gadgets.com directly, and that's the Shopify account. You can find it on Amazon, but I'm very reachable. So through the website, a message can be left and I will respond. I want to be available to people. We also have Instagram and YouTube channels so people can get ideas and see other ways of other people engaging with Geri-Gadgets, and it gives washing instructions and different ideas for how to engage with them. There's all sorts of little playlists for that on YouTube, and there's lots in Instagram as well. So
Amazing. Well, thanks for spending some time with us today. And for those of you who are watching at home, if this is the first time you're seeing the show, don't forget to give us a follow or subscribe. If you're listening to the podcast, a honest review on whatever platform that you might be listening on would definitely serve us well, help us find a larger audience. And most importantly, if there's somebody out there who has an idea for a product, but hasn't made that transition from their side hustle or that dream, wanting to step out of the career and do something exciting and impactful, work on a mission-driven business, or maybe someone who's marketing a specialty product in the CPG space, or more importantly, if there are caregivers out there that are dealing with family members or loved ones that are being afflicted by memory loss conditions, don't forget to share the show. And with that, Angela, I will thank you for kicking off the week with us, and have a great week and good luck. We'll be excited to continue to follow along.
Thank you, Dylan. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.